Hi everybody. Some of you guys expressed interest in the eco-critical film theory, and so I thought what better place than nature in order to establish what's going on. Eco-criticism is kind of a form of activism as well as a form of critical theory, so that when you're watching films and you're using an eco-critical filter, what's happening is that you're looking at it from the idea that humanity's place in nature needs to be fought for. It needs to be rethought, it needs to be readjusted. So when you're watching a film and you're focusing on elements like the natural world, there's a couple key concepts you're going to need to remember. The first is the relationship between the human and the non-human. Now in monster movies, the added touch of that is the fact that in monster films, it's often compared to the idea that the monsters are animal. And how bad or how terrible or how awful it might be that humanity might slip into the animal form. Now, an eco-critic is going to say, well, what if it's the reverse? Maybe the human elements are really quite awful, and the animal is actually bringing some sense of balance and justice to things. Another aspect that has to tie in with eco-critical feminist reading is the idea that nature is represented as female, and technology, industrialization, modernization is male. So it's designed to conquer and control nature. Or you have men going off into the wilderness to tame it, as if feminine nature was something that you needed to kind of control, destroy, kill, prove yourself, establish your manhood and your dominance, blah, blah, blah. The huge. There's no denying that the girl represents the animalistic and the natural. She uses mimicry in an effort to attract and trap the pimp. She also wears a hijab as if she's in camouflage and masking in along with everyone else. These are all animal-like characteristics. The notion that the girl, and technically almost every girl in this story, is representing nature is pretty obvious. Addie the prostitute is compared to the cat and referred to as a cat multiple times. There's also the cutaway, close-up, extreme close-up of the cat's eye, which then cuts away to Addie's eye. That would imply that she is part of nature. There's also a moment as well when Rash is actually seeing the dead body of the pimp for the first time. In the background, there's a deer's head. That would kind of show that he is sort of connected to nature, but at the same time, he's definitely on the prey side more than he's on the predator side. Almost all of this comes down to some form of an accountability. You have the industrialized world, which has contributed in a non-environmental way. How is the environment in a film, the landscape, the characters, the animal-like aspects, the natural-like aspects, the green-like aspects, how are those playing a role in the movie? Now, what has any of that got to do with A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night by Anna Lily Amirpour? Well, think about it this way. You have a vampire woman who, at its very nature, is attacking the parts of the industrialized world that could be seen as damaging or destructive. So you have unnatural concepts, such as taking in poisons into your body in order to alter your brain chemistry, such as the junkie. You have factories, you have oil rigs all the time, smoke in the distance. You have a ravine and a highway where in the ravine are many dead bodies. You have all of those elements that are very, very unnatural-like things. So you could argue that the girl is trying to bring some natural balance back to it by attacking those things. No better place to see that than in the scene in the pimp's apartment. What's in his apartment? Animal skins. Everything is covered in animal skins or animal heads, as if he, as a man, proving himself, has conquered nature, killed nature, skinned nature, and used it to decorate his disgusting apartment. What does he get in return? An animal-like girl tears his finger off and proceeds to eat him the way that nature would if it was going to get back at you. You know who's not natural? Anyone at the princess's party. She's barely disguised as a rabbit. They're taking drugs and alcohol steady. Even death itself is a character at that party. Nobody at that party represents anything in the natural world. They represent the decadence and the excess of a technologically and modernized industrial garbage heap, cesspool, anything that is the most anti-natural thing that you're going to encounter is there. Think about the fact that the boy gets rejected by that society, and maybe you understand the reason why he's so attracted, almost like a moth to the flame. Remember, there is that scene where he stares at the light, in which he is attracted to something that may protect him, something that may be able to come to grips with him, something that destructively may get rid of his past so he can move forward. All of those elements, even the aspect of him trying to be a drug dealer and replacing the former pimp, doesn't succeed. The modern world is not a place for Arash. His world might be with the girl, with nature. There needs to be some form of consensus. An ecocritical theorist would argue that this film is darkly optimistic from an environmental perspective. There are two key scenes where that actually plays up. At its core, a lot of environmental theorists would argue that trying to come to a relationship between the human and the non-human, between the animalistic and the overly civilized destructive force that is humanity, are trying to come to grips with one another, trying to form and bond a relationship that could justify the saving of the planet. Many ecocritical theorists deal with the idea of the fact that if human beings were out of the picture, the environment could actually be better off, which, if left to our own devices, the girl would destroy almost every person in Bad City before they had a chance to do more damage than they already have. But she is in a relationship with Arash. Arash is semi-reasonable, semi-sensible. Now, unfortunately, he's still human. He drives that big old car around. He asks her to go to the factory. He buys her a hamburger and can't understand why she doesn't like hamburgers, because everybody likes hamburgers. That his obsession with the industrialized meat industry and her rejection of it is a good indication of the differences between their relationship. Also, as well, keep in mind that he does pierce her ears, which may be seen as a form of domestication, almost as if you were decorating a pet, rather than actually dealing and respecting with the animal that she truly is. Also keep in mind that diamonds at their core, although they are found naturally in the earth, they are shaped, crafted, and sculpted as if they were not perfect in their natural forms, but had to be reshaped by humanity in some way, shape, or form. And these are the gifts that he gives her. Now, true, at the end, they drive away from Bad City. They drive on the highway through nature in an effort to escape it. But the question is whether or not things are going to go well for the human aspect or the non-human aspect. The one element that might be indicative of the fact that things are going to go well is that Arash has to deal with the fact that his father was killed by the girl. His father, who again takes poisons into his body, who attacks the cat for representing his guilt and his shame, for someone who has corrupted and corroded the relationship, and he represents the past, has now been killed. He's been destroyed. He's been dragged out into the streets, and he's there as a side effect of it. He is there as the detritus and the garbage that comes from an industrialized and modernized society. They are leaving him behind. Arash chooses the animalistic killer of his father in an effort to move forward down that highway and into the wilderness in the hopes that they might be able to forge a future, human and non-human alike. You may be wondering why I've had to keep moving these shots from place to place. The main reason, which is a very ecocritical theory sort of a thing, is the fact that there are tractors on campus, and every time I start filming, they drive up behind me. Here I am, desperately trying to find nature, and here they are, humans going about ruining it as per usual.